You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Had a pretty stinking good weekend across most of the fantasy outlets, so turned out to be pretty good. What else did I do? Celebrated the wife's birthday. That's always a big thing. So her best friend, we flew her down from Colorado and surprised her for the weekend. So the two of them got to hang out and go do some shopping and all the girl time stuff, which left me to my poor lonesome self watching football all day Sunday. I was I was heartbroken, let me tell you.
Sure.
But man, I'm good, man. I'm riding high, just trying to navigate injuries and bye weeks like everybody else.
Yes, the injuries, that is that's the funness, right? Like that's the and you and I were talking just a little bit ago before we went on the show, like I'm trying to figure out how to navigate the Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, and Emeka Mbuka injuries in the home league and what that's going to look like. So certainly some fun in store for me this week with some roster decisions and waiting for reports to come out and all of the funness that accompanies that. So it'll be interesting to see how this one finishes playing out here. But certainly a lot of injuries this weekend and certainly a lot of injuries to kind of high profile guys. But any news, notes, anything that you want to hit up here before we start kind of getting into it?
Well, I think it's kind of listed as far as the news, right? Like Garrett Wilson, knee sprain, he's probably gonna miss a little bit of time. Puka, ankle, gonna miss a little bit of time. Let's see here. Hopefully we can see Mike Evans and CD Lamb come back this week. Hopefully, and provide a little pop back to lineups. Obviously, we have some buys that we're navigating around this week. Buffalo probably being the keynote there, missing James Cook, Josh Allen. There's one other one that's on a buy this week. Who am I thinking of, Derek?
I'll find it here because now it escapes me. But it's
I'm thinking more for the running back position.
Yeah, let's see.
Anyway, another round of buys. We're still fighting injuries off here. Ravens, there you go. So hopefully that what that means is Lamar Jackson's getting healthy, right? So you're one more week without Lamar Jackson. You don't have to worry about the up and down with Derrick Henry. And then next week you can kind of get them back and hopefully they can start to regain their form for fantasy purposes. Let's see, a couple upsets this weekend, right? Atlanta beating Buffalo Monday night was what pretty big upset. The way the Chiefs really kind of handled the second half against the Lions and just kind of put them away was a mild upset. Obviously, whenever you're in Arrowhead, it's a big home field advantage, right? The Chiefs Kingdom does a very good job of showing out week in, week out, and supporting their team. So you always feel like you have a home field advantage, but they hadn't been so dominant, right? They seemingly kind of getting their stride. Another guy coming back, right? Rashee Rice. The suspension is over. So if you sat on Rashee Rice, now you're kind of like, okay, here, like maybe it helps you get around an injury. Maybe it's just a much needed depth or providing depth, right? Because you can slide him into your starting lineup and then play matchups with Michael Pittman or someone of that nature. So obviously that's a good thing. JSN bye, right? That one's that's next week. Sorry, that's by Mageddon where the Seahawks are out, where JSN's gone. Sorry, I'm a week ahead of myself.
Right. Yeah, it's just the Bills and the Bills and the Ravens this week.
Right. Next week it's 6 teams. That's right.
Yeah, it's nasty next week.
Let's see. What else happened? Okay, here's my PSA where I'm going to admit where I was wrong. I did not think Rico Dowdle would go off for another 200 plus all-purpose yards. Now, I don't recall us ever telling anybody to bench him when we were doing start sits. I just said temper expectations. So I feel like I'm going to take 50% credit on that. I didn't see the outcome, but understood the necessity of playing him. So if you had him in your lineup, kudos to you because he had a monster week against the boys. Tedero McMillan got into the end zone for the first time in his career twice, which if you're only going to see 3 balls, or if you're only going to catch 3 balls, 2 of them might as well be for touchdowns. So that's good. The Bengals started to kind of look better offensively. Packers is never an easy matchup, but Flacco found his guys, right? T. Higgins T. Higgins had 6 catches. I think Jamar Chase had 8 or 9, got in the end zone again. Like it's just now we need Chase Brown, right? We're slowly getting there. I don't know that any of them are ever going to be what they could have been had Joe Burrow stayed healthy all season long. But I think Joe Flacco is a good enough quarterback that he can keep them relevant, which at this point, that's a good thing, right? That means you can at least trust them in your starting lineup. So, yeah, other than that, I mean, what do we want to talk about the I don't know, shenanigans that happened after the Lions Chiefs game? Like I'm not there's more to that story, right? Like
Right.
so weird.
There's something else that had to have been said, something like that leading up to it. But yeah, I did find it funny, right? Like the Chiefs though somehow managed to go the entire game without
Penalty called against them.
without a penalty called against them.
Yeah.
And especially that one that Patrick Mahomes scrambled in there, got the touchdown, and then started pointing and like by definition of the rule should have had a flag toss for the taunting side of things. Because we've seen other players flagged for lesser things. Like Puka Nacua a couple weeks ago had the one where he points downfield and was flagged for that one after getting a first down in a similar type of gesture, but he wasn't pointing at anybody. Patrick Mahomes points directly at, and if memory serves right, he might have been pointing directly at Branch when that one happened. I'd have to pull it up and look at it to confirm that, but doesn't get the penalty called there. And then, the stuff that ensues after the game. But I'm kind of with you. I think that there's something more to that story that's not necessarily come out yet.
Yeah, I know Branch had a little post-game presser, right, where he kind of referenced it. He's like, man, he goes, all game long. He said they just constantly get away with this stuff. He said, I mean, and he's probably going to get, I think that's part of the reason the 1-game suspension, right? The NFL is not going to fine him for the comments and for the fisticuffs. Like, they're like, okay, if you're going to do that, so instead of a big fine, now we're just going to make you forfeit a game check, right? Like, I think they kind of combined the on the field and referee criticizing into one lump game check. I don't believe the NFL's fixed, but man, it makes it really hard to defend that position at times, especially when you're talking about the Chiefs. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's silly stuff, but nevertheless, Kansas City won the game. That's how it's going down in the record books. We're not going to remember much of any of it come this time next year, other than, oh yeah, that was kind of weird, huh? So I guess we can move on, right? We need to get ready for week 7. We need to focus on the task at hand because we are, I guess, after week 7, we're halfway to the playoffs. And so it's getting down to it, right? We need to really start looking at these bye weeks ahead and really start to formulate our game plan, whether it's trades, any type of roster movement, navigating bye weeks, right, to remain competitive and maybe sneak out a win where maybe we shouldn't, right, try and steal a game, because we need to start accumulating more and more wins here to get into the postseason.
Yeah, Yeah, it's certainly certainly a lot of things that have to start kind of breaking it. And there are some of those that if you're depending upon where you're at so far, you either need to make a push or maintain type of thing to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to rock and roll this. Here coming up in week 14, 15 for when that when that really gets going. So um but it'll be interesting to see kind of some of how this rock and rolls through here, and certainly some teams have to navigate some of these injuries and the upcoming bye week. So if you haven't had a great start so far, there's certainly some uplook on that, especially as starting to navigate some of these bye weeks to potentially try and steal some wins here to keep yourself headed towards the playoff race, and some moves to be made there for sure. Let's see. Before let's go ahead and hit this question up here. Mario chiming in saying, "Good evening, fellas. QB buy, stream Rodgers, Young, or Stroud this week." That's one.
Sorry. I think I'm personally going to lean Rodgers against Cincinnati, and I'm just playing the defensive matchup here. So Stroud's at Seattle. I could see that being a really dirty, grimy, like 16-13 type ball game. Maybe, right? The Houston secondary is pretty good. So again, it might give JSN some problems, Sam Darnold some issues, but they're also challenged offensively. So I could see it being a pretty low scoring affair. Bryce Young going against the Jets. The Jets defense isn't bad, right? Like the problems that the Jets have are not necessarily on the defensive side of the ball holistically. Yeah, there's been some holes, and yes, there's some things to tighten up, but really it's been the offense, right? It's very, very one dimensional. You thought that you would get a little bit more creativity with having a mobile quarterback there, and it's just not working for the Jets. But if I'm them, I'm leaning on Dowdle again. Right, after what he's done the last 2 weeks, like I'm not asking Bryce Young to do a whole lot. So I'm playing Rodgers against a pretty porous Cincinnati defense. Now, it could look a lot like the Jordan Love stat line from this past week, right? Rodgers might only get 235 yards and maybe one touchdown. Like, I'm not saying he's going to blow the doors off, but if for whatever reason Cincinnati can jump out on top of Pittsburgh, I do think that Rodgers will have the most, I guess, ability and the easiest time getting back into the game with his arm as opposed to the other two.
Yeah, I'm kind of same boat, right? I'm not necessarily looking to play Young on this one. The CJ Stroud is intriguing, right? But between him and Rodgers, I think there's about a half-point differential between those two as far as how I'm kind of looking at that and projecting that out. And when it's that close, I'm going with the matchup as well, right? The Aaron Rodgers at Cincinnati, I think that has the potential to or the easiest matchup for him to be able to try and rock and roll there. So yeah, it's not that there's really fantastic options looking through these, but between the options mentioned, I do like the Aaron Rodgers side of things. And who knows, that Cincinnati and Pittsburgh game, it typically goes one of two ways, right? It's a low, just grinded out, low scoring affair that these teams end up having having lots of penalties and a just chippy type of game. Or you could potentially see a little bit of fireworks going here and them really just trading shots back and forth all game. But either way, the matchup and what Rodgers is looking at there, I far like that matchup better than anything else out there. Mario saying thanks for the intel. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, I don't think so. I think you and I are pretty well aligned here, right? I'm gonna take the matchup.
Okay, awesome. Any thoughts out there for folks that may be trying to navigate the waiver wire? May have been saddled with some injuries here and there. Like anybody that you're kind of looking at some potential value to potentially try and target there.
Yeah, so I think Kalani Vidal, right? Like that was kind of the big thing last week. Is that Haskins is a Vidal. For 1 week, the Chargers clearly answered that question, right? 120 yards, got into the end zone. So he's a must add, right? If he's out there, he needs to be added to your roster wherever you can get him. Provide some running back depth. I think he's a good one. Mason Taylor, again with this Garrett Wilson news, they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody, right? So we could see Mason Taylor from the tight end position kind of really step up and see an increase in targets. It's not a high volume passing offense with Justin Fields, but in the tight end position where points are sometimes scarce, you could see him get something kind of similar to the Jake Ferguson treatment, right? Where he's just a bigger focal point in the offense, and instead of 4 or 5 targets, maybe he sees 8 or 9. But if you can see 8 or 9 targets, typically with the tight end position, that means you're 6 or 7 grabs. So you're looking at 85 yards and maybe a touchdown. Like is what you're hoping for. So that's there for the tight end position. Wide receiver wise, Kendrick Bourne is at this point a guy that needs to be on your roster or on a roster if he's still sitting out there back-to-back weeks with over 120 yards. Jennings did not look good for the Niners, so Parasol's still fighting this injury. Kendrick Bourne seems to be kind of the go-to, at least for Mac Jones. We'll see how it looks when Brock Purdy comes back, if he comes back this week. But if Mac Jones is under center, at the moment, Kendrick Bourne is his go-to guy. So definitely something that you can sneak in and help navigate some wide receiver injuries with a guy like Bourne on your roster. Another one's Josh Downs, right? We saw him have a pretty strong game for the Colts this past week. Michael Pittman was a little bit held in check, right? Not a very good performance out of him with how his year has gone. We expected better, but this was the debate at the beginning of the season, right? Downs or Pittman. And they were going pretty stinking close to each other. It had been Pittman basically for the first 5 weeks. We finally saw Josh Downs kind of get his, and he looked good doing it. So I'm not saying that we can expect that every week, but we've seen more of the glimpses of what could be with Josh Downs. So let's see here. Harold Fannin, if he's still out there, right? Like up and down. David Njoku picked up an injury. If he's going to miss any bit of time, Fannin becomes the clear, undisputed number 1 tight end there in Cleveland. So that should help out Dylan Gabriel. Be able to check that ball down and use some of those shorter to intermediate routes right there in the middle of the field. So I think that helps him as well. And then if you're looking for deep shots on running back, Kendre Miller, right? For the Saints, he'd been getting kind of an uptick in usage this past week. Did not see that. Alvin Kamara kind of took the show back over. 5 receptions for Kamara definitely helped, right? It's been part of that we've been missing out of him this season, and he's kind of been fairly pedestrian, honestly. So it was good to see him get there. But again, aging running back, not many options in that game. But if something happens to AK, then Kendre Miller's a guy that you're definitely going to want on your roster. Now's the time of year you kind of really want to worry about handcuffing, right? So if you're a Bijan owner, if Tyler Allgeier's still sitting out there, like take a look at how your bye weeks align. Make sure you're not going to really hurt yourself on any given week. But now that the Falcons have already had their bye, this is a long stretch to the end of the season, right? There's not that bye week to be able to get healthy. So if you have a Tyler Algier sitting out there, take a good hard look at it. It might be very beneficial if the Falcons decide that, hey, we've really kind of run Bijan hard. Like, let's give him a week off, and essentially just all that means is just flipping touches or whatever with Algier. Not that we're going to know. They're not going to tell us that going into the game. But again, now that they're past their bye, long stretch through the end of the year. So handcuffs could become extremely important.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, so a couple different ones there, right? Like, I mean, none of them are bona fide Hall of Famers, but they could definitely help as we start to navigate bye weeks. We have tons of injuries on our hand, right? So guys who you're able to pick up and be able to play in a flex spot if you need, and be able to get points out of, where you're not taking, a 0 or a 1 or a 2.
Right. Yeah, that's that is one of the things that'll hurt a week for sure is taking a 0 at a position. So, but yeah. Well, while we're waiting for a few more questions to kind of rock and roll in here, let's go ahead and take a look at the upcoming Thursday night game here. We got the Steelers and the Bengals facing off, and this kind of a divisional matchup. Two teams that don't really like each other. Thoughts on the Thursday night game?
I feel like their hatred for each other has kind of toned down in the last year or two. And as soon as I say that, we will see fireworks. But we're past the days of Vontez Burfict and AJ Brown, or not AJ Brown, excuse me, Antonio Brown, right? Where they're coming across the middle and the nasty hits and everything else. So we've kind of evolved past that, for lack of a better term. So again, Cincinnati's defense is very porous, right? They have tons of gaps. They have tons of opportunities. So Pittsburgh should be able to move the ball up and down the field, right? So, your Jalen Warrens, even your Kenneth Gainwells, I think are potentially both in play. Warren over Gainwell, in my opinion. DK Metcalf, yes, please. Obviously, you're starting your Bengals in Jamar. T. Higgins, maybe not, right? I think if you're riddled with injuries and you're kind of forced to play T, you're just forced to play him. Like, you just need to kind of hope for the best. However, if you happen to have a pivot, this might not be a bad week to kind of pivot out of T. Higgins. And then as far as the quarterback plays go, Rodgers, if you're a Josh Allen owner, right, you're trying to figure out what to do this week, I think the Rodgers matchup is at least tantalizing, for having your all-pro quarterback on a bye this week. At least you have someone like an Aaron Rodgers who at least the matchup's there. So, I expect Pittsburgh to win this game. I think it's somewhere along the lines of 23-20 is kind of where I see this game. So again, points, yes. High scoring affair, maybe not. But it's a divisional game, right? It's hard to kind of get that. And home field really helps on these Thursday night games. And so I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to necessarily blow them out, but I do think the Steelers will win the game.
Yeah, so I think that's some good thoughts in there for sure. Did you happen to see the some of the the infographics and some of that kind of stuff that they were putting out there for this game and this matchup between?
No, I haven't seen them.
Okay, it was pretty interesting. Somebody, I was scrolling through some social feeds, and so it's not my original thought, but it was good enough, and I apologize for not remembering who posted it out there, but somebody had it put out there that right in one corner it had Aaron Rodgers, another corner it had Joe Flacco, and they're kind of looking there, right? And these are quarterbacks that are certainly on the mature side of quarterbacks and the sun setting side of things. but they put it out there that this looks more like the graphic that we would see for a political debate, more so than a Thursday night football game. Just the way that they had it cropped up and all of that. Like it was pretty humorous to see. So kudos to the person that pointed that one out. Again, if I happen to come across the name, I'll make sure we give them credit for that. But that thought had me just rolling. And I think you're right. I think we're going to get this is a divisional matchup, so it's tough to tell, but this is going to be one of those, we either see these two teams just starting to trade shots back and forth and really trying just to put up points in bunches, or we're going to see a grimy, grinded out, 13-10 type of affair. Like, I don't think that this is going to be much of an in-between. This is going to be a 30-27 or a 13-10 type of matchup. Like this, I don't know that I see much kind of in between there on that. Any other thoughts on this game?
No. It'll be interesting to see if TJ Watt can how much he's going to impact the game, right? Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, both. Your pass rushing, all-pro defensive players, both going against quarterbacks who are not very mobile. Rodgers maybe still just a little bit. Flacco is not. Flacco's a statue back there. So that might be the true leg up for the Steelers, right? Like if Watt can get off the ball and really cause disruptions back there, force Flacco into some bad decisions, it could be a long day for the Bengals if Flacco can't stand up tall and be able to deliver the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, let's we do have another question coming in here. Let's go ahead and hit this one up. John asking, what do we think about sending Debo and Rico for Rasheed? Don't know how to value Rico right now.
Great. So Rico right now is sky high, right? Back-to-back weeks, just monstrous. We know Chuba's coming back and relatively quickly. So maybe are the Panthers on bye next week? Is that right, Derek?
I'm looking that one up to try and see, but let's see.
Too many stinking leagues. Rico.
Let's see. Yeah, bye weeks for week 8. You have Arizona, Detroit, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, the Rams, and the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Panthers aren't till late week 14. So I was just trying to decide about that Chuba injury. Here's the thing. Rico's done too well, right? This isn't about Chuba not playing well enough. This is about Rico forcing the Panthers' hand. So even if Chuba comes back, Rico Dowdle's still going to have value. Debo was kind of non-existent this past Monday night for the Commanders. Hopefully we see Terry McLaurin back. If so, I think we see this kind of hopefully the full ascension of Terry and Jaden Daniels back to what we thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year. So if you can pull this off, John, I don't hate this. Like, I think Rashee Rice from this point forward definitely has top 10 wide receiver potential week in and week out, right? We'll see weeks where he's number 3. We might see a week or two where he's number 1 just on sheer volume alone. But I don't hate this deal, right? Sell high on Rico. Debo's, yes, a nice little piece, but I don't think that's a bad trade. And as long as you have the running back depth to, dance around the Rico not being on your roster anymore, I think Rashee Rice is definitely a big upgrade in your wide receiver room over Debo.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm a bigger fan of the Rashee side on that one. Very much the same point that you just made there, right? I don't know that. Yes, I think Rico will have a point in this offense moving forward. I know a couple of weeks ago, I was very much kind of on the opposite approach on thinking that, yep, Rico would come in, fill in. That's awesome. 2 weeks in a row, there's a trend starting to happen there, and I think that you'll see him have a place on the field going forward. But I think that it'll just be a running back by committee type of deal between the two at that point. So, and Debo, I don't know that there's, he's certainly kind of the one commander that hasn't had injury issues right now on that offensive side of things. But it would not surprise me for him to start taking a step back here once McLaurin comes back and that offense continues turning. So I would rather have the Rashee Rice side of things on that one and would be looking to sell high on Rico as well. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
Nino saying number one priority had Burden locked in, then saw DJ Moore is now day to day. Should I switch over to Tez, Butte, or Calvin Austin instead, or still take Burden?
So this is the problem with waivers being so early in the week. I would lean Tez just because it's the highest powered offense. We don't know how long Emeka Mbuka is going to be out. But I think Tez will still be involved with this offense, even with Mike Evans coming back. So I think that helps. Baker needs guys to throw the ball down the field too. And Baker's done wonderfully this year. Absolutely wonderful job. But I think Tez is probably your ceiling play, right? Just because he has the most high-powered offense. Butte's been interesting, right? He's had a couple weeks where he's popped this year, yeah, and then he's had a couple weeks where he's kind of flamed out. Calvin Austin started hot for the Steelers and then kind of flamed out. So DJ Moore, I don't know, man. That dude spent the night in the hospital, and we don't know really much about this injury, right? We don't know if it's a concussion. We don't know if it's a leg. We just know that he looked a little woozy getting up from the sideline at one point, never seemingly went into the medical tent that I saw of, finished the game, and then afterwards we hear he stayed the night in the hospital. There's got to be more to this story. And typically, if you're staying the night in the hospital, you're not playing the next week. Burden.
Yeah, it was a groin injury is what I keep seeing that's the reason that was there.
Why would you stay the night in the hospital for a groin injury?
I don't know. It was kind of the same thing a few weeks ago, right? I don't remember which player it was, but they were consulting a core muscle surgeon for a groin injury, which, right, or a quad injury. That one I'm just not sure. These injuries don't make sense to me. So I'm not sure what would have been there unless there was obviously would have had to have been something serious that they kept him overnight for.
Yeah. I think I would go Tez Johnson, then Luther Burden, and then Keyshawn Boutte, and then Calvin Austin. I think is the order in which I would do it. With you having the number one priority, I think I'd take Tez. I think I'd take Tez and run that out there. DJ Moore, his role has been really interesting this year, to the point that we've seen Zacchaeus with 3 more targets through 6 weeks than what DJ Moore's had, right? So yes, Ruma Dunze helps that, but they paid DJ Moore a lot of money, and he just, I don't know, it's just not working with him and Caleb at the moment. Not that we can't see that turn around, right? We've seen DJ Moore have some monster weeks out of nowhere before. Even last year, he had a couple big weeks that seemingly came out of nowhere. So he could snap back, but the trend for the first third of the season says otherwise. So I'm going Tez Johnson.
Yeah, I do like that. I think both Tez and Butte are ceiling plays when it comes to it, right? And I do like the Tez side of things for a little bit potential bigger ceiling play, just from the standpoint of especially if Godwin's out, if Evans is out, if Mbuka is out, like they've still got to move the ball somehow on that one, and it does look like Tez would be kind of primed for a big role in that there. Butte is a guy that I think could have another ceiling type of play, right? Like he's a boom bust player, and with some of the matchups that Butte has coming up, right, with Cleveland, Tennessee and Cleveland, they do tend to give up a lot of points on the outside to outside receivers on that one as well. So yeah, I do like that. But again, both of these guys are going to be boom bust. Calvin Austin, not a guy I'm looking to necessarily rock and roll there. Also saying drop Algier or Michael Carter. I would drop Michael Carter between the two. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, so.
Okay. Tingley, AO, gonna be dropping Ridley. Should I pick up Downs, Butte, Coker, or Spears? PPR bench is C. Brown, Pears, Golden, Garrett Wilson, Ridley, and Evans is on the IR.
I would go down slightly over Butte.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I'm Coker is not a big target for me this particular week.
They just don't throw the ball enough, right? Like the offense is it's flashed, right? It's looked better in some areas, but I think you need something a little bit more than Jalen Coker. And with the injuries to Parasol and Garrett Wilson and Ridley and Evans, right? You have a lot of wide receivers down. So if I were in your shoes, if you're dropping Ridley, that's fine, but you got to grab a receiver in return.
Yeah, I like that thought. So awesome, guys. And again, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, let's go ahead and throw those in the chat. Let's go ahead and get that rocking and rolling and keep taking a look into that. But yeah, any while we wait for any other questions to come in here, anything that may have been a little surprising, things like that you may have seen come up here. Anything else that you feel like we should address?
No, nothing pops into my head, right? Like it's the challenge that we face every year. And we've mentioned it before, right? Injuries and bye weeks and trying to get through it. So, some teams, these bye weeks are hitting at the best possible moment, right? The Ravens are a team. This bye week is coming at the best possible time, right? Let them get another week healthy or healthier for another week, and see how many starters you can get back in the lineup. This team is far too talented to be 1-5. But here they sit. So now we could be sitting here in another 5 weeks and they're 6-5. It's like, okay, they've gotten some momentum. Like the Ravens have that kind of power. But they first and foremost need Lamar, right? That's first and foremost. And then, Ronnie Stanley, right? Get that left tackle in there to protect Lamar. And then it's this defense, right? Being able to get Marlon Humphreys and Roquan Smith and Hamilton healthy, like get these guys healthy so that way they can start, I guess, performing. Because I think at the beginning of the season, looking at the Ravens schedule through 6 weeks, I think most people would have had them at 5-1, 4-2, not 1-5. So the expectations are still high. The team is talented enough that they can still get it done. But they got to play catch up, right? They can't keep dropping games. They need a little luck and see if the Steelers kind of stub their toe and slow down a little bit like they have the last couple of years here in the back half of the season. But the Ravens are the team that probably needed this bye week most. Maybe you could argue the San Francisco 49ers need a bye week too, just to be able to get players healthy and back into it. So it's been It's been ugly, right? A lot of big name players, a lot of fantasy assets have already missed time this year. But this is why some of these 2-for-1 type trades early on in the season, like Derek and I kind of advise against those, right? Like you want depth going into the bye weeks until you truly understand kind of how your team's shaping out and get you some options, because it's great to have all that star power up top. But, right, if you're playing, you know, starting next week where there's 6 teams on bye and then 4 and then it goes back to 6 or whatever it is, like these next few weeks are a challenge. They just are, and your depth is going to be tested. So everybody just please be mindful of that.
Right. And it certainly gets to be rough as you navigate through that and really work through that as well, right? And so let's go ahead and hit up this one here. Joe over on YouTube saying hello from Third Shift. Brian Thomas Jr. or Pittman in a full point PPR?
I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. The last couple of weeks have looked better. Last week looked pretty stinking good. And it seems like he's kind of snapped out of this rut here just a little bit. So it's good for the Jaguars. Travis Hunter's a little nicked up, right? We kind of saw him in and out of the lineup, and he was banged up a little bit on Sunday. So I think it's Brian Thomas Jr. kind of going forward here. We look much closer to the guy that you drafted at the back end of the first, beginning of the second round than what we saw here for the first 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, I would co-sign there as well. While Pittman's been really good recently, Brian Thomas Jr.'s starting to look like he's returning to form, and the matchup's really good this week. So wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing Brian Thomas Jr. again sneak inside of wide receiver 1 territory on the week. So absolutely, it's a smash for BTJ for me. Tingley saying, yep, definitely needed a wide receiver. Not fully sure if CD will be playing this week. Rice coming back from suspension just in time, LOL. So if you've been sitting on that one, you definitely could be using those options there for sure.
Yeah. So. And the thing, I guess the good thing about the Cowboys bringing in George Pickens is they can absorb this type of CeeDee Lamb injury and make sure he's fully healthy. Right? Pickens has played well enough that if you're the coaching staff, you always want to have CeeDee Lamb on the field. So I'm going to start by saying that. You always want to have CeeDee Lamb on the field. But George Pickens has been a great pivot for the Cowboys. And again, offense has not been their problem most of these games. Right? The Chicago game, offense was kind of weird. And that was the game CD went down. After that, this has not been an offensive issue for the Cowboys. It is defensively. They cannot stop the opposing team. And they had been doing pretty well against the run until this past week. And then Rico Dowdle just stopped a mud hole in the Dallas Cowboys through that running game. So we'll see how they respond. But maybe they do hold CD back one more week. Like, you'd love to have them both out on the field. But it doesn't, having both those receivers on the field doesn't help the fact that the defense is still giving up 30-plus points a game.
Right. And there's only so much that you can do on that one there, right? Awesome. The one other thing that we didn't chat about there, and some news that happened over the weekend, right? We saw the first carousel open up on the coaching side of things, with Tennessee deciding to move on from their coach in after a short time there. Thoughts on this, or does that do anything for you? Move the dial at all in Tennessee in that offense and the fantasy production there?
I feel bad for Cam Ward, because this is the type of almost had to hit the dump button. This is the type of stuff that really slows down the development process of a young quarterback, right? Because now he has another voice to listen to and another offensive philosophy, right? And I get it. They're not moving the staff. They're just moving the coach. But we all can read the tea leaves, right? Like, the Tennessee Titans are going to be looking for an entire new staff come this offseason. They will not retain the staff that they currently have on hand.
Right.
They are going to look for a up and coming play caller, most likely, and try and pair him up with Cam Ward and really get this offense going. Now, my hope is that this offense in Tennessee becomes a little bit more diverse. It is pretty vanilla. Definitely kind of, I'm not gonna say dumbed down because I find Cam Ward to be a pretty intelligent individual. But it is pretty simplified at the moment, right? They didn't want to give him too much too early, but it's boring. It's vanilla. Like, it's not an exciting offense to watch. We haven't seen the run game get going, and this offensive line was supposed to be a little bit better after drafting offensive linemen here for the past couple of years now. Like, we expected more. That hasn't come to pass. They're stingy-ish on defense. But at times, there's still lapses in judgment and that type of thing. So I'm not going to say it's going to make a big difference, but maybe for some of the veterans, it does kind of light a fire under their butt. I don't think the young players on the Titans are really, what's the right word, experienced enough to realize that that's what this move was, just as much of anything else. So, maybe it does a little bit for Cam Ward. Before the injury, I was kind of hoping that Calvin Ridley was kind of finding his way, right? Because in week 4, he had himself a pretty good game. I think we were expecting a good game for him, or excuse me, in week 5, he had a good game. In week 6, 1 catch, 18 yards, like, it looked right. It initially looked like it was going to be a game where, you kind of got him going, and then this hamstring injury creeps up, and now we're back to square one. So I hope so, right? Like, I hope so for the people who drafted Tajay or Tony Pollard late. I hope so for the people who have Cam Ward in a super flex, Chigakonkwo. We need streaming tight ends. So, there's a need, but I don't know that they have. I don't know that they have the talent outside, right? Like, I don't know if they have the talent in skill position players to be able to make a big difference just because the coach said his services were no longer needed.
All right. Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see there, right? With the you bring them in year one, they don't have a very good season, end up with the number 1 overall pick. And that's the thing that amazes me is how quickly teams gotta move on at that point. Obviously if you moved on originally because you didn't think things were getting done, you end up with the number 1 draft pick on that one, and then expecting a very quick turnaround time. Like, that's always the thing that kind of amazes me, right? Like, very few times do we see a team that picks number 1 make the playoffs the following year, or even to get to 500 the following year, right? There, it's typically a multi process that comes in, a multi-year process that comes into play. So, but I did see too that they also moved on from Brian Callahan, the coach. His dad, who was serving as the offensive line coach, also left there as well, and so it does look like they're starting to try and shift things around and kind of put together a coaching staff to see how this will ultimately play out there. And it'd be interesting to see how the offense kind of turns around. But this is one that they put up 20 points one time in the season. That was it. So I don't know that there's it doesn't move the dial for me anyway. Epic. I said epic. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Epic fail. We'll just say that.
Epic fail. That's how I'm reading it.
All right. Over on YouTube, Goddard or Kraft in PPR rest of season?
I'm going Kraft. Goddard's seen some pretty good target share here the last few weeks. Not quite sure what's going on with Philly. They've been definitely a mixed bag. Kraft has been solid, but he's had a couple really long receptions to help boost the yardage numbers and touchdowns to boost his overall fantasy numbers, right? He's not doing it in volume, he's doing it in explosives. So I am going to lean Kraft just because the tight end's more of a natural part of the Green Bay offense as opposed to what Philadelphia does. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Kraft.
Yeah, I would also go with Kraft there as well. Yeah, Goddard could very well have be on a pace for a terrific year, but I do think that Kraft is the guy that I'm looking to lean with rest of the season. Ezekiel over on YouTube, should I drop Ridley for Burden, Coker, or Johnson? Probably Caleb Johnson or Jaden Higgins, and or recommendations.
I think I want to wait a week. I think you keep Ridley for a week. We want to see how bad this injury is. We kind of want to see what this offense looks like under a quote unquote new regime and see if it kind of helps focal point some things in. If Ridley's healthy, his route participation alone makes him more viable than Burden, Coker, or Jaden Higgins. We need Cam Ward to find him, obviously, to kind of put that in motion, but it's hard to give up a guy who's the team's number one for a bunch of number threes. Like, and I get it. Tennessee's offense is not high powered. It's not something that we're salivating to get a piece of, but he's still the number one option. Like, and I know all the Iamora owners are crawling out of their skin, but it's not. You look at Amonora, whatever.
Io Manor.
Oh Manor. Good Lord. Every single way I butchered that. My apologies. Manor. He's not, he's just not the number one yet. Next year he might be, right? Like you might see that ascension into year two. Year one was meant to be Calvin Ridley's year. It just hadn't happened quite yet. Again, we saw flashes in week 5. Week 6 got off to a really good start. First drive, got that 18-yard grab, and then he went down. So I want to see how bad this hamstring injury is before I worry about pivoting off of Calvin Ridley for one of the guys you have listed.
I would also agree with that. It's tough to try and go the route where I'm dropping a guy that's, because it's not like any of those other guys you're mentioning are in high powered offenses situations either. Like this is a not
Burden,
one that
maybe you could argue, but that's the extent. And again, day to day for DJ Moore.
Right. But if DJ Moore is not able to shine in that offense, I don't know. Luther Burden's the guy, right? What is it? Zacharias, like Zacchaeus. That's probably a better guy to probably try and look at than Burden even at that point.
That sounds dirty.
Yes, it is. Ezekiel also saying that they need a tight end. Should I try and get Fannin, Ertz, or Otten?
I would lean Fannin personally.
Yeah, if Njoku
Miami this week, like, yeah, I'd lean Fannin.
Plus matchup for sure. And if Njoku misses time, Fannin's almost a must start tight end one type of deal this week. Similar could be said for Otten. Right? If Mbuka's out, Godwin's out, Evans is out, I think it's Otten to the moon at that point, right? And we saw that play out somewhat last year as well when Evans and Godwin missed time. Cade Otten went on a 3-4 game tear that just, kind of made his fantasy season during those couple of weeks there. But so if I'm looking at that, that's how I would go. I'd lean the Fannin side. and then Otten, and then Ertz would be my last choice. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, sir.
All right. Epic fail. How would you rank the priority in waiver out of these four in redraft PPR? Harvey, Downs, Wandale, and Spears.
So I would go Wandell, Downs, Spears, then Harvey, but I wouldn't freak out if we wanted to just flip Harvey and Spears. But for me, it's definitely Wandell 1. Only because there's the lack of pass catching ability in New York. Excuse me. With Neighbors going down, we thought maybe Darius Slayton, then he went down and didn't play this past Thursday night. So Wandell's been seeing a bunch of targets, and that's hard to turn down. Opportunity is what we ask for. So that's why Wandell's kind of clear 1. Josh Downs, 1B/2, depending on how you're looking at it, for wide receiver on a Colts team that's pretty balanced. They're doing a really good job this year. We've kind of seen a resurgence of Daniel Jones. So that's the reason for Josh Downs. And then Harvey and Spears. Spears might help you more immediately if he's going to continue to see, 45 to 55% of the snaps. Harvey has more upside. He's probably a little bit more explosive, and he's seemingly the guy that we're kind of thinking, all right, like started slow, but as we need him down the stretch, we're going to get him more integrated into the offense and potentially see him, be used a little bit more often for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I would co-sign on that, and in that order as well. I think Wandale is the guy that you definitely want, and the opportunity is knocking on that one there. All right. Ezekiel saying, any thoughts about Judy? He's also on waivers. So be dropping Ridley for Judy.
I just, Dylan Gabriel has not been hyper impressive to me. Like, I'm not necessarily seeing it move again. Fannin seems to be a pretty good beneficiary. The fact that Cedric Tillman's already down, yeah, Isaiah Bond hasn't quite stepped up. He had one pretty good week, and then he's just kind of been on the bust category. So I don't mind Judy for a bench stash to see if it finally clicks for Gabriel and they really start feeding him the ball. But I think based off of kind of what you were looking at earlier, I think I'd rather have Calvin Ridley than Jerry Judy.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen another for me, right? Like between these two rookie quarterbacks, bad offenses, like, and the Browns have proven that they can get in there and win these low, grimy, low scoring games that they don't have to put up points for. So the Titans certainly seem to have to put up at least 20 points to be anywhere close to trying to get the job done. So I mean, it was nice, the 13 targets this last week, but for fantasy, the targets then didn't translate into much from a production standpoint. So I'm kind of with Kevin that I don't mind necessarily the stash side of things, just from a put him on the bench, and if he's going to continue to get 10 targets a game type of thing, and those targets become a little bit more efficient targets, that can certainly lead into some fantasy success towards the end of the season. But right now it is literally kind of 6 of one, half dozen another for me. You're coin flipping it there, and at that point, I'd rather take the guy that's been there more than once in Calvin Ridley. So, any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right. Chris over on YouTube, in my in-laws 12 person standard work league, they're 1-5, Baker, Achane, Rashad White, London, Rice, Goddard, and the 3 bench spots with Diggs, Harvey, Ladd, and Bucky on IR, and JCM. And they just traded JCM and Ladd for a panicking owner's Gibbs. Haven't been vetoed just yet. I don't mind that.
I don't mind that at all, right? I mean, we've seen some highs and lows from Gibbs.
Right.
as well, right? We've seen a couple weeks where one specific week where it was really just David Montgomery week for whatever reason. He's just the guy who got the run. Last week against the Chiefs was a tough matchup, but the Chiefs are good against the run game, right? Like it's one thing that they've been really, really good on here this year. So I don't mind this, especially with Gibbs coming off a down week. Like I think there's a lot of argument to be had that, putting JCM and Ladd together, if they're panicking, is a fair trade for Gibbs at this moment. Had Gibbs been performing kind of that RB3 range that we all drafted him to be, he'd look a hell of a lot more lopsided than what it is right now.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I like the move, especially in a shortened. If you've only got 3 bench spots on something like that, and you've got that even on a 12-person league, like you can find stuff consistently on the waiver to also help pick up and things like that. So do like that from a you're kind of consolidating some star power there, and I really like the fact that you can just kind of you're gonna be rolling out Achan when Bucky's back, and Gibbs kind of week in week out, and between those 3, that's a great option for running back 1, running back 2 in your flex position. Like Rice and London, I think you're really set up for some success there as well. So I like the move. I like the move overall a lot. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, I agree. I like the roster. I think that you've done well here, and you'll get better with Gibbs.
All righty. Well, I think that's going to take us. Oh, there we go. Chris also asking, what kind of split do you expect from Dwaddle when Chuba returns?
60-40 to the hot hand. I don't
Yeah.
know that either one of them is locked into one side of that, but I think they're going to run them both out there, and you're going to see which one kind of has the goods that day, and you're going to ride it out.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to make it really choppy. Like for Chuba owners, especially, right? Like most of the Rico Dowdle owners picked him up off of waivers, or as an afterthought in a last round, whatever. So you have other running backs or flex position options. Rico just happened to pop, and that's why you grabbed him. If you drafted Chuba, though, like you drafted him to be a starting running back for your team. So it definitely hurts the Chuba owner more than the Dowdle owner.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm kind of in that same boat. I was kind of thinking 55-45, 60-40 type of split there as well. And it's going to be, I think, very frustrating for the manager, those 2 going forward, right? If you picked up Dwaddle and you're expecting that to kind of continue and being able to ride that one out there, and thinking that you just picked up a league winner in the waiver wire, certainly temper those expectations. And for the person who's been holding on to the Chuba injury, I think that there was one of those that definitely the volume made that play out over the last couple of years, and I think that you're going to be in for a bit of a not very pleasant surprise when both of those guys are on the field and back at the same time. So I think it is going to be rough moving forward there for sure. Millie Mills saying, "What's up, fellas? The Falcons beat the Bills yesterday, so they are smoking on that Bills pack all week."
There you go. Yeah, I mean, heck of a game, man. Atlanta really showed out and turning over Josh Allen twice, right? He'd been pretty good about protecting the football here this season so far. So kudos to the Atlanta Falcons. Their pass defense is top 5 in the league right now, right? I mean, for those of you who don't know, they've spent a ton of draft capital that wasn't like, obviously they went the high end first round picks for so many years in a row, but they've done a lot of defensive drafting after that first round. And these players are it's starting to click. They're starting to come about. So the Falcons are going to be, ultimately they're going to be as good as Michael Penix can take them, but they're going to stay in a lot of football games because that defense is much better than I think what a lot of people anticipated them being. So as long as they don't play of all teams, the Carolina Panthers, and get shut out. Like the Falcons have been in all these games.
Right. Yeah, that was the nice thing there too, especially if you had Bijan or Drake London or even Michael Penix in your fantasy leagues last night, and we're in need of a Monday night miracle. You certainly got one on those.
The good
So
thing about having 2 Monday night games.
that's
It
true.
does suck that you can't watch 2 complete football games,
Yes.
but last night did prove why it was fun to have 2 Monday night games because you had so many key fantasy assets, and for the most part, all of them did their jobs.
Right.
Like, all of them got there. Jaden Daniels had a solid week. Wasn't a great week. Our hometown scoring, he did awesome for you. But,
Yes.
Caleb, DeAndre Swift got there. Roma Dunze is kind of the one that didn't, right? So I guess if you had to list one of the guys who didn't get there, he didn't. But Josh Allen was serviceable as long as you didn't get dinged too hard for the interceptions. Derek and I are in a couple leagues where you lose like 5 points per interception, and so that one was, ugh. But other than that, you were happy. Like, you're pretty happy if you started your Monday night players. The vast majority of them got there for you.
Right. So yeah, it was a lot of fun too. I know there was several leagues that I was needing some big games and got those, and a lot of those big games were fueled by players on those Falcons. So I was celebrating with you, Millie. Just maybe not for the same reasons there. You're rocking and rolling on the team. I'm rocking and rolling on players. So either way, we were both happy with that. So good to hear. But that's going to take us down here to the end of it, I do believe. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
What do I have for everybody this week? I don't know. Check us out on Friday, right? If you haven't checked out the Friday night show, the Bet Set Snap, we go live Friday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. A lot of lineup questions in one way, form, or fashion. If Binking, who's kind of one of the regulars, he typically hops on. We talk a little DFS, not a ton. That's not our wheelhouse. I'm not claiming to be a DFS expert, but we jump on and kind of shoot the breeze with everybody and really try to dig into any and all questions. But it's a fun show. It's a fun time. So go out, have dinner with your significant other, tuck the kids in for bed, whatever that looks like, and then hop on and join us Friday night.
I like it. We have one more question coming in here. Epic Fail asking a super flex question: better stash Mac Jones or Jacoby Brissett?
Mac Jones.
Yeah, and it also depends too on which one of those you think is going to, whether you think Brock Purdy or Kyler Murray's going to miss more time moving forward.
Kyler's was kind of a 1 week deal, right? Like, it didn't seem super serious. It's just like, all right, he needed a week to get healthy. There's something with that Brock Purdy injury, like, that we're not getting from the Niners. So Mac Jones, I think, has a much better start potential, which increases his value as a stash than what Jacoby Brissett has.
Right. The only thing that I could think of is that it could potentially lead Jacoby Brissett to get the start this week. Cardinals are on bye on week 8. So if Kyler's got any sort of lingering or anything like that, they may choose to have him sit one more week. And because you sit him one more week, you get another week out of that. And so you essentially give 3 weeks to heal up on that thing. So
I'm a Trey McBride owner. I want Jacoby Brissett.
Fair enough. Yeah, certainly managed to find the end zone with Jacoby back there. So
he did. Now it definitely made it easier with Marvin Harrison getting the concussion, right? Like, that was another guy. We didn't even mention him when we were talking about the injuries at the beginning of the show. But if I'm a Trey McBride owner, I want Jacoby as my quarterback. Like, he's captain check down and he will feed McBride all day long. If I'm more of a Marvin Harrison guy, I probably want Kyler. I think long-term Kyler's will be better for Marvin Harrison than what Jacoby Brissett would be.
Right. I would agree. Epic saying, thanks y'all. Great show. Appreciate that. And guys, if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, follow button, wherever you're listening to this, tuning into it. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. But that is going to do it for us tonight. As Kevin mentioned, we'll be back on Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see everybody there and ready to go for the weekend as we keep this march going towards those cash and trophies. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloo.